Men have been more oppressed.
Please make your argument right now. Please. State your case, Brian.
Okay, so it's Brian. So now we finally know his name. Brian is his name. Did I say it was Brian earlier? I don't know. So, men have been more oppressed than women. We've seen this argument, I think, once before. Men have been more oppressed than women.
Let me ask you a question. So throughout all human history, what percentage would you say of military casualties, if you had to break it up between the genders, what is the percentage breakdown of military casualties?
Well, so here's the deal. Here's their logical fallacy that they always bring up. Because we live in a patriarchal society that has always viewed that men are the only ones that can go to war, that somehow that means that men are oppressed. No. So we've denied women forever the ability to do things that they might have been able to do simply because that they're women. If we would have allowed women to serve in the military, if we would have allowed women to do things that they were physically capable of doing and not denied it to them only because they were women, you would have seen more women serving in the military, and as such you might have seen more women dying in the military. But we denied them that ability, so therefore of course you're going to see more men dying in the military. Because for the longest time, that's the only people that could have served in the military. Like it's the same argument they make with everything. We're going to artificially constrict this to a certain group and then complain that things are happening because we've made this artificial constriction. We're making this problem. It's like the whole thing with like the Hannibal Buress meme. Like, you shoot Hannibal Buress. Why did you make me shoot Hannibal Buress? Like, they made their own problem, and now they're complaining about the problem. No, it's not how it works, dude.
So deaths and injuries.
Obviously, a significantly more amount of men.
99.99999%.
But that's also because in the past, women have not been allowed to.
That's a privilege.
Fight. Yeah,
that's a privilege. It's a privilege to be oppressed. It's a privilege that we decided that women were not capable of doing certain jobs. That's bizarre way of thinking. You were told because you're a woman you couldn't do certain jobs, so you're privileged. They don't understand what privilege is. That's the whole. They don't understand privilege at all.
They don't want to talk about selective service and the fact that men actually don't get a choice.
Damn.
Like, that really is a slam dunk argument. Somebody said, it's funny how the blue-haired sex doll has more character and personality than the majority of girls that come on his show. Somebody else said, trying to imagine women storming the beach at Normandy. Oh, God. Imagine just like Dunkirk, but all girls. That would be a terrible movie.
Men have...
All right, so this is not Pearl, but this person also seems like she's a pick-me as well. Like, okay, but if there were people who would, if you had a battalion of people who were physically capable of serving in the military, who were well-trained, who happened to be women, they very well could have done a great job. But guess what? You didn't allow it to happen. So therefore it couldn't happen. So that's why you can't visualize it. It's the whole airline pilot thing all over again. Because we've had airline pilots that have been white men for such a long time that when you see somebody who is a pilot that's not a white man, you say, oh, well, I don't feel safe because this isn't what we've seen for a while. But no, but you can be anybody and be a pilot, and you're going to be well trained. And as long as you're well trained enough to be a pilot and get behind in the cockpit, you're going to do a good job. But we have this mental image of what a pilot is supposed to look like because we've had this thought ingrained in our heads of what pilots look like. So we've had this idea in our minds of what soldiers look like because for the longest time, soldiers have only looked a certain way. But if we didn't do that for the entirety of humanity and we allowed anybody who is physically capable of serving as a soldier to serve as a soldier, we might say, oh, well, sure, of course women can serve as soldiers because if you're physically capable of doing so, we would allow you to do so. But we never did that. And we just started doing that only very recently in the history of humanity. So again, we create the men create the problem, and then we complain about creating the problem. It's absurd. Let's see. Bicycle Mike. Guys like this ruin it for the rest of us. We aren't all predators. Cynthia from Texas. Freaking coworkers suggested Joe Rogan to me. That's crazy. What percentage of victims of war, including the history of rape and pillaging, were women? Very good point. Men are not the only victims of war. Exactly. Viking shield maidens were quite fierce. Good point. I bicycle race. Some women kicked my butt and were tougher than me. Yeah, absolutely. Because there are plenty of women who would serve and who could kick ass. But in many cultures, they didn't allow them to. Why? Because we have a patriarchal society, but they're not ready for that.